Hey everybody, this is Jason with OTPG, coming to you with a little recap, kind of a players meeting with a couple of guys that made the top 8 from the May 17th event at Zenergy Gamers at Goose Creek. So I'm going to bring you that right after this. Hey everybody, it is OTPG on the Play Games Take 2. Got Kris Heckelman and Jack Stalkup with me. Two of the top 8 players that were at the RCQ last weekend at Zenergy Gamers in Goose Creek, South Carolina. We were just kind of looking at some different things on the Wizards of the Coast site coming up. Just going to let that kind of spin through while we chat a little bit about the weekend's event. We had 18 players. How do you feel about the 18 players for top 8 pins and a $500 cash prize pool? Kris, take it away.
I can say for me that 18 players is one of the dream numbers. 17 is just a slightly better with a sick bye. But 17 is the minimum amount of players for a top 8, and it is significantly easier to get top 8 rather than top 4 on 16 players. So I love to see 18. Definitely one of the best numbers to have for a local RCQ.
Yeah, it definitely makes it very easy to make that top 8 and give you a pretty good chance of getting that invite. So definitely is an easy field at that point.
Yeah, I feel like the only time I ever make a top 8 is when it's 17 or 18 players and like Hayward's not there and Joe Ambrosio's not there and Chris Miner's not there. And like several like the really hard ringers aren't there. Like the only time I have a chance to eke in, and it's usually like 8th place exactly that I fall in. So it was quite refreshing to not be in the bottom half of the top 8 this last weekend. But yeah, some interesting deck choices. Jack doing it again with the black white blink, man. The corgi getting you there and getting you there strong. How was your Swiss rounds?
The Swiss rounds were pretty good. I played against Treasure Hunt round 1, which is definitely supposed to be a buy for most modern decks. In my 75, Treasure Hunt can actually be a tough deck to beat. I'm pretty much finding Thoughtseize in game 1, or I just lose the game because none of the cards in my deck interact with Treasure Hunt. And for those who are unfamiliar, the deck is comprised of mostly lands and then a card called Treasure Hunt, which is 1 in a blue sorcery. Reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, continue to reveal until you reveal a non-land. Put all those cards into your hand, and then you play Reliquary Tower so you don't have to discard. And generally, they'll play Seismic Assault, which says discard a card and deal 2 damage to any target. However, this player was on, I forget the name, but it's 1 in a black enchantment. Discard 2 cards, create a zombie. So he was on a much like slower version where he had to combo and then play the enchantment and then go through a whole turn cycle to attack. And that actually played very well into my sideboard for Wrath the Skies. Because if I can Wrath the Skies for 4, then I'll hit the enchantment and any zombies he creates along the way. So Wrath on the play is decent, but really just looking for the 4 Thoughtseize, because he realistically is mulliganing for exclusively Treasure Hunt. And if his hand has Treasure Hunt, he keeps. If he doesn't, then he just continues to mulligan. And in game 2, I found Thoughtseize on the play, and he top decks Treasure Hunt, and I ended up having to wrath him, and I stabilized at 1 with a Solitude Ephemerate, and just kind of like chipping away at his board just a little bit, and enough to block, and then cast Wrath, and then stabilize from there. So it was definitely a sketchy game 2, and then game 3, what happened is what normally happens, where Treasure Hunt just mulligans into Oblivion, and then that's it. And then I think my only other like actual tough matchup was a really tough matchup was against Kris. He is on a deck that we'll talk about here in a second, but
yeah, it's a cool one. It's a cool one.
The game that was, I believe, game 1, you just like trashed me with Ugin, and my deck like cannot beat Ugin pretty much at all. Like I can't, like, even if it's resolved, it's just 9 loyalty. I don't have a good way to just like delete a planeswalker. My list doesn't have it. Maybe that's something to look at. Vindicate, it does exist. This is pretty much my only out at that point is Vindicate in game 2. But as far as game 1, it's pretty much lights out. But in game 2, I thought Seize You, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had Subtlety, Portent, and just like a bunch of lands. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I thought Seize You, I saw those, and I think like my line of thinking was you have to Subtlety my White Orchid, because I was assembling Thalia White Orchid, and you did not. And that kind of like really threw it off. And the more I think about it, the more I just wish I followed the traditional philosophy of if they have X times 2, take Y. You know, I think that's just like a better way to do it and force you to only have 1 decision point. But you ended up casting Portent and then finding K command times 2. And I think that was pretty much the game right there. So you got me in the Swiss, and we did not see each other later on, as we'll talk about. But as far as the rest of the Swiss, I played against Prowess. I believe I won 1 Prowess round, and I lost another Prowess round. I think the matchup is very good. You have 0 mana interaction for their creatures, which makes Violent Urge and Mutagenic Growth very difficult to go in on. Not to mention, my main form of removal is Fatal Push, which is not damage-based. So that makes it a lot harder for someone to force through damage with Slick Shot or something similar. And my whole deck is built around looping Solitude with Baelmerk. So I think, just as a general statement, it's very hard. Lava Dart does not have many good targets. Probably like one of the best things that you could do with it is just killing Thalia. You know, or a Flicker Wisp as well, hitting the Bogart Trawler. These are like really good targets, but overall, I think the matchup is pretty tough. It's not unwinnable for Prowess. There's definitely like hands that this deck can lose to. Oftentimes, it involves Corey Steelcutter, so it's not unwinnable for Prowess, but I think it's very favored. And then I can't remember who else I played against, but maybe it'll come back to me in a little bit.
When you say you
talk about
played 2 rounds of the Prowess, was one of them against Markel's Prowess?
I couldn't tell you if it was Markel's or Adams, but what I think it was Adam, and he just kind of like got me. So.
Okay. Yeah, Adams was on fire Saturday for sure.
Absolutely.
Running through. I think he drew his last 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was a 3-0. He was a clean 3-0, and then he may have drawn, but he ended up losing to Markel in the quarterfinals in a mirror, and those mirrors are pretty atrocious. And I believe Markel was on the play, and if you are on the play, it's going to benefit you a lot in that mirror.
Yeah, you get 1 threat down, then you just get to sit there, remove their threats while beating them down. It's not a fun mirror.
Now you said Steel Cutter. That's bouncing their Steel Cutter. Is that right? Or do you have Steel Cutter in your list? I'm looking for Steel Cutter in your list.
No. That's in Prowess. The games that I lose oftentimes they play Corey Steelcutter.
Okay, gotcha.
And
misunderstood.
Yeah.
Right
If they
on.
don't play that card, oftentimes it's very favorable. Ketramos is also a wall for the ground, so that makes it, almost impossible, even with Trample, just offsetting it itself with Lifelink. This is a very, very good matchup, I think, overall.
Yeah, this deck is surprisingly quick when it gets the was it Phalia? Is that how you pronounce the coordinate?
Phalia. Yeah, and that is a big problem for prowess as well. They pretty much need like Lightning Bolt or Lava Dart, and they have to have it ready at their end step if I'm going into my turn 3, because I am representing such a powerful play. And if they do have it, it's it's not the worst, right? Because the bolt is going towards the creature, not the face, and it's not buffing prowess to hit me for more damage. So while it is not a favorable exchange, it's an exchange that I think just kind of has to happen. I would rather do that than have a bunch of 3-drops in my hand that don't do anything. So
now there's a card in Standard right now, if I'm not mistaken, that is basically Vindicate, but it doesn't hit lands. This says target non-land permanent, and it's a 3-drop like 2/2 creature.
That you have to sacrifice a permanent to destroy something, if I remember correctly.
Okay, there's a sack on it. Okay, so there's a cost of a sack. That makes sense. All right. Yeah, I was wondering if that's something that you had considered slipping into this list. But if there's a sack cost to it, then obviously that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Vindicate's definitely the best version of the effect possible, because it doubles up as not only a removal spell, but hitting the lands, and that's a big part of attacking Eldrazi and even Chris's game plan, is just by trying to get up underneath them and hitting their mana. So you definitely want to like some type of land destruction effects or something along these lines, and Vindicate is phenomenal at doubling up and also hitting Ugin, which again, it's the only card in the 75 that can answer Ugin. There's actually nothing else, and if your creatures are attacking it, chances are, they got a good exile, probably hitting Ketramos. You may have Baelmerk backup. You're not going to win. It's just not happening. This is a very, very corner case situation. Vindicate, however, gives you a real chance to win the game.
Yeah, it's such a great card. I'm glad to see it actually making, some deck lists finally in Modern, because when it first got printed, it just didn't seem to find a home anywhere for quite a while. So to see such a powerful effect finally be in the meta, I guess it was just too fast back then, or there were just so many better options, and now they've kind of, with the ban lists, kind of banned enough things out to where Vindicate now has a place to kind of fill.
Vindicate's always had a home in these weird types of decks, right? Like, in this particular case, we have White Orchid Phantom forcing basics out of the opponent and then vindicating those basics. In the past, like, we've definitely seen things similar where combining with Field of Ruin and like more stacks effects, likely Leonin Arbiter, and using like Death and Taxes, kind of reminiscent of Dead Guy Ale, but not at all the same. But it's definitely had a home. It's just stub 1% of the meta, and always has been.
Yeah. Well, definitely a great deck. What knocked you out in the? You made it top 4, correct?
Yeah. No, I lost in top 8 in the quarters, and I lost to Zach on blue-white control. And I think the point in the game was very similar to the reason I lost to Kris in the Swiss. Was I think I messed up my Thoughtseize. I saw his opening hand on a mulligan, and his hand was Solitude, March of Otherworldly Light, Supreme Verdicts, Preordained Land, as something along those lines. And the important cards were Supreme Verdict, Solitude, and March. And I ended up taking March when my hand was White Orchid, Ephemerate. And I don't know why that happened. I just think I should have just taken Supreme Verdicts And I think the logic was he's not going to Supreme Verdict me anytime soon. And by the time he does, I can put something else on the board and protect it with Ephemerate. But it's banking on drawing like a Ketramos or something like that. So, I think my play was like very high rolly, and it did not need to be at all. So, lost to Darga, and then I believe Zach lost to
myself.
What was it? Yeah, Domain. Yeah, he lost to Domain.
I did not expect to get that game, to be honest with you. Zach is one hell of a control player, and to see him do so well with just straight blue-white control in our past conversations, where you're like, we talked about how this is not a meta where control is really favored, and then Zach Darger comes in and is like, let me show you what control can do.
Absolutely. And me and Darga talk a lot about sideboard plans and how to combat the meta with such a crappy deck. And I told him early that if you have Scion Leyline, the game is going to be over. The chances that you can interact with it are very low. It's not impossible, but it's going to be very rough. Even a Supreme Verdict is pretty slow, especially if you're on the play, right? So you need as many answers as possible, going all the way up to 4 consigned to memory in game 2 and 3 if you're on the draw, just because it is so powerful. And it'll still hit Leyline Binding. You're not thrilled about it, but it still has text. Even hitting a Frog trigger or a Ragavan trigger isn't the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. But the game, to me at least, seems like if you get Scion Leyline, the game is almost over immediately. And then after that, if you have a good bit of burn and or just creatures early plus burn later, it's very hard for blue-white to win that game. And Ragavan's so good. Ragavan is amazing as a turn 1 play when it goes unchecked. That can also just be lights out almost on its own.
There's one voice that was ringing in my head, and it was your voice, Jack, when I was sideboarding against Zach in that match, and it was do not dare take out your Tribal Flames.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Like, don't touch your Tribal Flames. So I took that advice all the way to the hole there. And yeah, my game 3 hand on the play was, just perfect. It had everything. It had the Ragavan. It had the combo with the Scion and the Leyline, and you just couldn't ask for better.
Those hands are basically unbeatable for blue-white. They can try to do Supreme Verdict, but even then, they've already taken 8 minimum, and it's
have to do that.
It's a trip. And if Ragavan goes unchecked, we're talking about 12 plus damage. I don't see it. It's a rough time. If you don't have it, then blue-white has a real chance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. I think I just got lucky all the way. Like the whole way, was just luck, and nobody.
And Domain is a high rolly deck. If you can run hot with Domain, you will win the game, and there's nothing your opponent can do about it.
Yeah, you're near unbeatable if you get the opening hands for it. Like, you just can't be stopped. And Tribal Flame is such a powerful card. I mean, just 2 mana, 5 damage. It's ridiculous how powerful.
Even hitting a Teferi, a Resolve Teferi going up to 5.
Yeah, it was fun playing it. But I play simple decks. I just put a card down that I don't even have to pay for. 2 turns later, I put a card down that gives everything hexproof and all these other abilities, and I just turn things sideways for the rest of the game and try to counter a couple of key cards.
Not even sideways. They have vigilance.
Yeah, and then I hope my opponent's not playing anything really complicated where I got to ask him, hey, can you slow down and explain that to me? What's going on here? Taking a quick switch over to Kris. Okay, first I just want to ask, did you see this somewhere, or is this just like part of like Tapped Out Games think tank? Do you guys still get together through that group? I mean,
throughout the week, I'll scroll through deck lists from like MTG decks or Goldfish. Also, I'm playing a deck similar to this maybe a month ago. Playing Blue Tron, and it's one of my favorite like archetypes. I played it 11, 12 years ago when pro PTQs were still a thing. And I loved the deck. It was just so much fun. So seeing this list, it looked like a blast. So I've been like tweaking it and messing with it for the last month. And yeah, so it's kind of a mix of what I've seen and then just kind of what I've modified since then.
Well, it is wild. So kind of run me through a couple things. What I did was I pulled up like your typical Eldrazi list, because my first thing I thought of is why not play the Eldrazi land where you tuck a 7-drop underneath it, the Labyrinth. And
Yeah.
I noticed one difference in your list. You have a critical mass of like 7 drops, I think it is, or maybe 8, might be somewhere in there, and they're running like I think 10, and I think is like 10 the magic number, and you're just like 3 or 4 shy of that, so you stay away from it, or
Yeah, exactly. So this version here, because I'm playing the Karn package, I can't get to that 8 to 10 number to make Labyrinth like a playable card to make it consistently online. So because of that, I'm not doing that version. If I was, the plan would be to cut out the Karns and add probably more Ulamogs, potentially max out on the new Ugin, just to get to that 8 number. And then I'd also play one of the 2-drop talismans, most likely, I don't know, one of the blue ones, doesn't matter which one really. And I'd play the Ugin's Labyrinth on top of that. But I'm a huge fan of how powerful Karn can be in so many matchups. So, because sometimes you just get Natural Tron turn 3, and if you're playing against Storm, you drop a Transfer on turn 3 and they can't win the game. Sometimes you just get, Chalice of the Void, Engineer Explosives, the classic Liquid Metal Coating.
oh yeah,
So it's a very powerful silver bullet.
yeah, it's got the wonderful.
Would you say that's your main? Is that your main game plan against Prowess? I think that's the question we're all curious about.
Yeah, so Prowess is probably it is a pretty tough matchup. Like, in 100%, totally very tough. Like, my game plan is to just survive to be able to cast either Natural Tron, or I'm casting a Calamity and hopefully hitting an Emrakul or an Ugin to win the game. So that's why I'm maxing out subtleties, because I will subtlety a 1-drop. I will subtlety a 2-drop. Because this deck is very good at drawing with the 3 stock-ups and the 4 calamities. I'll dump my hand in the first couple turns, but then restock on turn 4 or 5.
The cards come back.
Yeah, like, I had multiple games where just, my hand was empty. Turn 4, I cast Calamity for 8, and now I'm back in the game.
Sink into Stupor also, allowing you to bring back an opponent controls. Spell a non-permanent and opponent controls. Okay, so you're just bouncing. And so what are your conditions to keep the board kind of under control other than subtlety?
Subtlety, Unable to Scream, is an all-star. That card is fantastic. It's a niche card, but because it's an enchantment, it helps out with the Calamity card, because it needs to be different types when I cast it, so it just adds another type for me to hit.
There you go. Okay.
And I think that's a card I want us to highlight real quick. I've given Sorcery, X blue, and then reveal the top X cards.
You talking about
if they are 4 different types of
right
cards, then you may cast one of them for free, and you put the rest in your hand no matter what. So you'll always get the cards. But if you flip Emrakul and you also flip Delirium on 4 different cards, then you can cast Emrakul for free and basically win the game on the spot. Now, one thing that's interesting for a card that you have up right now is K-Command, and this did happen in our game, where if you flip 1 K-Command, it will not count as 2 types, right? So you must have 4 different cards with 4 different card types And if you flip 2 K commands, you can use the 2 different types, but just not in one. So 1 K command is an instant, and 1 K command is a tribal for the Eyes of Calamity.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't so you can't hit like an artifact, a land, and then 1 K command, and now you've got 4 card types.
Right. That doesn't work.
You have to
exactly.
exile 4 cards or more with it to get the free count.
Okay. All right. I was totally thinking that just one of those counted as 2 types of cards, so that's good to know.
And generally it does. For Delirium reasons and the graveyard, it absolutely does. For this particular card, it will not work this way. And outside of Emrakul, the big hits, if I'm not mistaken, are Big Ugin, 8 mana, and then Normal Ugin at, and that's just a 3. Is that a 3 of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 3 of for the
Okay.
new Ugin, and then a 1 of for the 8-drop Ugin, the old one.
And you could argue Karn, but I don't think anyone's like thrilled to flip a Karn.
No, but even then, like, for me, a lot of the times it's okay. I cast it for, let's say, if Magical Christmas Land, not even Magical Christmas Land, just an average turn 4, I'm casting it for X of 7. I'm gonna get something. Sometimes it's just buying 4 or 5 cards and getting, like, a random permanent play. Like, against, might have been against you. I think I just hit Subtlety, and that was it. That was a 3/3 blocker.
Yep.
That's enough
You
to
flipped-
survive next turn.
You flipped land, K command, subtlety, and then cast subtlety.
Yeah.
Sick. Just absolutely sick.
Yeah.
It's
So, like, the one thing I like about this deck is most Tron lists, like, you're just all in, get Tron turn 3, that's what you want. This deck, not as much. You want it by turn 4, turn 5. Because at some point you need to get an island of some kind or blue source for us to either cast Calamity or cast Stock Up to dig even more. So the magic number is turn 4 for Tron, and you're happy at that point.
nice.
What do you think your least tutored Karn target was?
Great question.
Very good question. Let me look at the list on my side here.
The Stone Brain.
This day, I did not use Pith Needle, like, at all. I only had tutored for it once, as well as Cityscape Leveler. I think I grabbed it once, and so those are probably
Cityscape I hear a lot.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at the Pithing Needle. I think there's definitely matchups I can think of. Belcher comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing, but like against Belcher, I just grab Stonebrain instead and then just loop that to take away all their win cons. That was actually my top 8 match against Matt Hatch.
And he was on Red Belcher.
He was, yep.
Yeah, I like Red Belcher more. Which do you think you like?
I think the red one's more explosive. It is worse against like any deck with counterspells though, but I feel like that's the better version against the meta in general. Like it is fast enough to compete with the aggro decks, as well as the other combo decks.
Now, what do you think about this? With defense grid at 4 times, and or just kind of like presenting lethal by having 7 cards in hand, the decks like blue-white control, would you favor them in that matchup?
For which matchup? For the
for Belcher versus a counterspell deck. Red Belcher.
I feel like the counterspell decks just they have an answer, but that's the thing too is like the dragon is just so.
The dragon is a great pivot. However, consigned memory beats both halves, so there's definitely a give and take.
Yeah, and that's the issue with that is, I don't know. That deck is just more powerful against most decks, but if you see a control meta, I feel like it's the worst of the 2 Belcher decks that are out there. Because the other Belcher deck, the blue one, has ways to, like, it's slower, but it has ways to protect the combo.
With the earliest it can win is turn 4, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
While the red one can win on the second turn, which is what Hatch tried to do in, I think it was game 2, and he got, like, 3 dragons out, but I was able to stabilize. In the
that is surprising. That is, I did not know that story. That's awesome. How'd you stabilize?
It was a sink into stupor, and then I actually grabbed my ensnaring bridge from my sideboard to stop him from attacking me.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Belcher has a very tough time dealing with permanents on the board. The only thing I could think of is Meltdown, and if you're casting Meltdown on 3 for 4 mana, it's not impossible, but chances are you just burned all your rituals because you just wanted to cast your Scions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's rough because if he has Bitter Reunion and can give everyone haste, you're just dead that turn. But it's also really tough for Belcher, Red Belcher, against you because of Force of Negation, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard for you to decide where to draw the line as well as the blue player, because if you say yes to all of this mana and then they cast Scion, you lose the game. If they cast Belcher, you win, right? So like there's a weird balancing act, I feel like, in that matchup, but ultimately I think you're right.
Yeah, I learned during that matchup that usually when he would cast whatever card would get him to 7 mana, that's the one you stop, because if he casts 4 or 5 things, you're facing 6, dragons. You're not going to be able to survive that.
And a big part of that too is 4 mana is going down the drain. The card is Ironcrag Feet, and if it's cast, he's down 4 mana. He's probably all in because the 7 mana, and then it restricts you from casting another spell after that, right? So he's probably going to cast either Belcher or Scion. What's the name of the card? Storm Scale Dragon? Is that what it's called?
Storm Scale Scion, I think.
Storm Scale Scion? Okay. Yeah, whenever he casts that, it's all in, right? Like, there's nothing else to do. The only other way he could cast something else is if you went, like, Ritual with Medallion out, right? Which isn't unheard of, but chances are he would go Ritual, Ironcrag, do it, right? So I think it's valid. I think it's a valid choice to hit that point because you're hitting both halves if you hit the Ironcrag.
Yep, exactly. That's what I learned, because I think it was the first game I said it was fine, and he dropped, a bunch of dragons, and I went, well, I don't think I can survive this. And if I remember correctly, I did not. So we went to game 3, if I recall correctly.
And being on the draw as Red Belcher is a super big deal. I mean, the line you just described, are you dead if you're on the draw in that game?
Yeah, if I'm on the draw, yeah, I'd be dead if he goes turn 2, drops the dragons, because my only way to get out of that would be, well, I guess it'd be, if I have natural trauma, that's the only way you can survive that, by getting the ensnaring bridge. If I'm on the play, then I have Ugame, that's a 1-of, so the odds are very, very slim.
Absolutely. And that's something about Modern that I'm honestly disappointed about. I don't know about you, but there was a time when being on the play or the draw did not matter at all. It really didn't. If anything, there were times where people would choose the draw for control mirrors. But nowadays, you just don't see those types of decks almost at all. And if you win that die roll, that's a heavy percentage in your favor.
Yeah, and I think that's due to all these, turn 2 and turn 3 combo decks. Because, you got Amulet Titan, you've got the new Red Belcher. There's a few other random decks that have the potential of winning on turn 2. And I think that's the big reason why now. You just always want to go first. Because you don't want to go first, because they're going to win on turn 2, potentially.
And outside of that, extending out, the creatures just becoming so efficient, right? We have Ragavan, we have Scion plus Leyline, even just a Kavu, Psychic Frog, Ocelot Pride, Guide of Souls, Ajani. All of these creatures are way above the bar that we've seen in the past, 7 years or so. These cards are really, really power crept at this point. So, I don't know. I can't miss the One Ring too much, but it is. I miss the game slowing down a little bit. It was very bad for the game, But there's nothing really to slow things down anymore. And I'm definitely not suggesting an unban at all. But I would love to see like something similar, maybe like limited in blue, maybe even multicolored blue-white, but something powerful to claw back from these like really poor board states that, you just have no chance to stop unless you have the answer on turn one,
So
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
you still don't feel like Fury coming back into the meta has a place or anything like that, huh?
I think Fury could absolutely. I think it died for Grief and Bean's sins. But I think there's a lot of cards that could come off the ban list. And if we're looking at Fury, I think we can look at a lot of other cards first. I know personally I would love to see Blazing Shoal come back. I think that, there's so many answers in the game that stop you from going all in like this that we can absolutely have Blazing Shoal come back. We have Solitude, we have Force Negation, we have all these great cards. It's a 2-for-1. If I interact with your creature, it dies. I think that'd be a fine unban. I know there's going to be some people that disagree with me, but I think that would be probably like my first pick. And then outside of that, I know there's been a lot of discussion on like Punishing Fire because it's just so slow. Like we just talked about, the format's gotten so fast. But I'm definitely apprehensive on that one. But I would love to see a total revamp of the ban list. I think we're way past due. Glimpse, that should absolutely come back. Bowmaster completely crushes elves. It won't be a problem. It's not. It's fine. But yeah, I think Fury has a place in Modern. But you're giving it to Boros, which is the #1 most played deck. But at the same time, Fury is amazing against Boros, so it's opening up these weird shenanigans that we definitely had during scam times, where I'll Fury your Fury, okay, I'll Fury your Fury, and those lines aren't awesome, but we still have it kind of today with Bowmaster and Solitude just kind of answering each other. So I think it could be. It is also freshly banned. That's a good reason to not unban a card, just flip flopping all the time.
Right.
We go back to a second. What I was talking about a minute ago about how fast the format is right now. So many turn 2 kills. Turn 1 Fury Ephemerate or Undying, and it being a 4/4 double striker that closes out games in 3 turns.
Yeah, that is true.
Decks can't always answer that, so it's kind of like that all in. Same with the Blazing Shoal. If you don't have the answer on turn 2, you lose the game. So I think it's got a place in there, especially since it would be, I think, it could potentially be weak because of that, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to see more fast decks out there.
One thing I do want to highlight, based on what you said, there was a finals I saw at one store. I forget the name of it, but it was out of town. And there's our buddy Dylan Schubert. He played against Scam, and his opponent mulliganed to 4 and had a Scam Fury and won that game, right? Because it was so good. Because Dylan was on Giganta, his opponent knew he didn't have Dismember. So if he could slam a Fury in play against Tron, that game's over. There's nothing they can do. And this was a while ago at this point, obviously. But, yeah, Fury, I'm definitely apprehensive about that. And you do make a good point about Blazing Shoal, accelerating the format a little bit. I think between all the removal we have, I don't even think it'd make a dent. I don't think it would make any change.
Probably be a fine thing to see come off, especially since they don't really have any free protection spells per se, because you gotta force negation protection because it'd be your turn, so there's not really an easy way to protect the combo for a turn 2 win. So I think it'd probably be okay, but I'd also just be hesitant on more fast decks out there.
About the idea of a pitch wrath effect.
We do have something. Kinda, right?
A 7-drop white card. You pitch 2 white cards, blow up the board.
Okay.
That's a lot of pitch.
I was not thinking of that. I was thinking of Force of Despair, right? Is that it?
Oh, the black one? Yeah.
Yeah. The pitch a black card, destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn.
Yep.
So we definitely have like something.
Yeah,
It's just it's so conditional.
Yeah, it's awfully conditional, for sure.
Absolutely.
But I guess with such a powerful effect for free, I mean, you gotta rein it in just a little bit, right? But well, I definitely loved picking your brains, Kris, about this deck because it was not only fun to watch you play it, but I saw you playing some pickup games too. And with I think it was Zach maybe that you were off on the side playing with after while the top 8 or top 4 was still going on.
It was
or before
the
the
fifth
top 8.
round when I drew with Adam. I was playing some side games, showing Tyler how to play the deck. 'Cause he was going to borrow it for an upcoming RCQ. So
yeah, it just looked really, really cool. So I'm glad you're able to join us and show us the power of Portent of Calamity, and just how powerful those Urza lands still are. Yeah.
I will say my favorite match of the day, going back real quick, round 1, playing against Wes. He's playing the Teamer Eldrazi deck.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1 takes 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah. This one, yeah. Tell us this story.
He casts Emrakul on me, taking my turn. I think it was 2 times. And then I proceeded to loot Emrakuls. I think I took 4 turns in a row and still couldn't kill him. The game eventually ended when I was able to quote-unquote infinite Emrakul by Ugin ulting and then casting 2 Emrakuls, take multiple extra turns, getting another Ugin in play, taking it back up, getting Emrakuls back into the deck to then recast them, and eventually whittle down his board to nothing. So it was a very interesting game.
That is... I think my brain would literally just fall out of the back of my head.
Yeah, no, when he had a 18-19, the 4-drop Eldrazi that gets bigger when you sack Scions.
Uh-huh.
An 18-19 in play. I had an Emrakul in play. And
Writhing Chrysalis.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, the red-green guy. Yeah. So he had an 18-19 when you were done with it, or like before you started doing your combos?
No, this was before the comboing. This was like turn 9 or 10 when this was going on. And I had Snaring Bridge in play, and we were just staring at each other for mini turns.
That point,
I often feel like Chrysalis should have trample, but it is just a common. So
yeah, I guess if it was an uncommon, it would have trample.
Yeah, you don't want that to be a pauper card with trample on it like that. That'd be sick. But yeah, this is a great list. Your choice of counter spells also, the 3 ensnaring spears, spell snares. Excuse me. Sneak it in there and catching people on those 2 drops. Really cool. Those would have crushed every one of my non-Scion creatures in my list really well.
When one thing didn't get mentioned out, I think it was in round 3 when I played against the domain list, and he had triple Tribal Flames games 1 and 2. Like that was a certain Killian right here.
Yep, that would have gotten it right there for sure, man. That's great. But really cool list, man. Really cool list. Both of you guys doing really well the past weekend too. So congratulations again and getting to another set of top 8s. Has anybody heard about the pins yet? Any word yet on the arrivals? I haven't heard anything either myself. I talked to Kat earlier today. I evidently haven't gotten them in yet, but the word will be coming out. From what I understand.
I've won 2 pins now, and I'm still waiting on both of them. So
yeah, you'll see those pins in the afterlife. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, is that how that works?
Yeah.
That would be my first one, and I'll never get it. All right, great. But yeah, it was good times. Always being able to play a little bit. You guys doing F&M tomorrow at final round?
Absolutely.
I will not be. I'll be doing family D&D.
There's a lot of family stuff going on with this holiday weekend, man. So I know I'm going to be doing a little bit less tabling, but Saturday's going to be some fun stuff going on, and I'll probably be around there. I might try to do Monday Modern. at Zenergy, because I haven't caught a Monday Modern yet to see who all comes out there. So might check that out. But any last words? Final thoughts on the meta? What do you think's shaking up?
Boros is doing the best at the highest percentage. Prowess is half of it at 10%, 20% to Boros. And then Dimir, Murktide, Amulet, and Eldrazi, 5.8, 5.7, 5.6 respectively. And I just want to say the Eldrazi representation seems low. That's something that I think Boros loses to Eldrazi. I think there are definitely hands that Boros wins, but for the bulk, they'll oftentimes just lose. So I don't know how this metagame is like coming up right now, but I think things will stabilize at some point. I think Eldrazi is being kept down by Prowess really hard, so it's just a very odd meta to look at. And Murktide players just being Murktide players, never giving up.
Never giving up. Once you fall in love with the Murktide, you can't put her down. As and plus they're legacy players. Just love their Murktides as well. So good stuff there. But yeah, 17% they're saying Boros aggro
is very high.
That is
very high because of the Eldrazi matchup. I am astounded. I think it's a very easy deck to do well with. So I can absolutely see it. We always hear the story of, my friend just gave me this deck, and I just kind of won. I don't even play Modern, and it was with Boros Energy. Boros Energy or Domain. Those are always, like, the two that people just, like, consistently do well with very little experience. So I think there's something going on with that. But regardless, it's just such a bad matchup. Eldrazi crushes it. But it's just a rock, paper, scissors right now, I think. And, of course, it's always the Wild West down in the middle of Modern. It's Live Again's still 2%. How is that happening? I don't know. But here we are.
Urzatron on the slow climb. Kris representing it, bringing it up a little bit there. Yeah, the Amulet Titan on the slow decline. Jeskai Ascendancy making a rise?
Yeah, people are trying that. It's got Emery, Tamio, Moxen, and then Jeskai Ascendancy to try and, like, loop the Moxen a bunch, and then if you're looping Moxen, you're netting mana.
For the Underworld Breach deck, and it does cute things, and it can definitely, like, it goes infinite. Like, you infinite loop your Moxes, you win the game. Like, 100%.
Yeah, I see your zeros right here.
Like, what's your payoff again? Like, obviously you attack with just, like, however much creature, but is there any other way to just, like, win the game on the spot? Like a Pyretic Ritual or something? Or not Pyretic Spellbomb?
No,
is there anything?
And then you just win with, like, a Steel Cutter. Like, you just bring back a Steel Cutter, it has haste, you win the game. Like,
and the trample is so relevant.
Yeah. Because it's going to be however big, and then they're dead.
Absolutely.
So you got to go into combat to get your win, but wow, the amount of prowess tokens you can create off of that, it's got to be insane. Bring a box of tokens with you.
And you're drawing and discarding the whole time.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's some way to draw more cards. You just sculpt your hand to be perfect.
That is interesting to see that on the climb there. But yeah, cool. We got a really fast meta still going. Maybe something comes up in the next set that slows it down a little bit. How you guys feeling about that Final Fantasy set? I heard a lot of hype about it, and then people started seeing the price points, and I've heard some mixed feelings.
Welcome to the day of Magic where everything's more expensive than it has been in quite some time because you gotta pay that premium price tag. So that's how it is.
It has always been pay to play.
In format, but it's just how it's going to be. But on the plus side, I see the secondary market being a lot cheaper because we're going to have all those collectors buying the shit ton of product and then sell all the basic versions. So if you want the basic, Cloud, it'll be dirt cheap. If you want the fancy one, you're going to pay way too much for it. So I feel like buying singles is going to be definitely pushed more than ever if you want to play anything competitive. Like, packs just don't seem worth it.
Great advice. Great advice. What about you, Jack? How you feeling?
Well, Chris definitely said his last bit will always be the bit that I preach. Buy singles if you want to play competitively. With that being said, Magic is a very touchy subject right now overall with the happiness of the player base. Commander being the driving flagship format of Magic the Gathering. If you like that, you know, I'm happy you're getting what you want out of the game. It's definitely sad for me personally to see. I enjoy 60 formats. That's how the game originated, and there's a reason for it, right? Like, you can't play chess competitively with 4 people. With that being said, no hate towards EDH players. Enjoy the game. The game is meant to be enjoyed. But for me, it's just the direction the game is going isn't one that I'm ecstatic about.
You think we'll ever see a day where they actually have an RCQ season with a Commander format?
Absolutely. We pretty much already have. There's been qualifiers for like Time Twister events where you had to, you just get the invitation, and by definition, what is an RC? What does that tournament structure look like? And they're following that, right? So it's already happening. It's already happened.
Okay. Right on. That's what's up. All right, guys. Well, let's go. I think great last words, and I really appreciate you both being here today, giving us your thoughts, talking over your decks. I wish we'd got a little bit of footage from the tables over the weekend to share to kind of back this up, but I think we got a great little conversation here, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us. And this is On to Play Games saying thank you all for watching, and have a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you.